Hey guys, how's it going? So today I was originally just going to show you a time lapse of this Fullmetal Alchemist doodle I was sporadically working on between hearing back from various commissions as part of my Couch Sketches series. But I thought it might be nice to have a bit of an art chat, or I guess more of an art ramble too. I think I'm going to ramble a little bit about style versus realism and also just the insecurities that young up and coming artists go through about having or not having a style. So if that bores you or you're just not interested, feel free to mute me and just enjoy the art. I often use sketches and doodles like this as a form of relaxation and meditation, where I just create it without thinking, almost like a stream of consciousness, but with brushstrokes. But I also like to use these types of works as a challenge to work on something I feel is lacking in my art knowledge or skill. Most of the time, that's why these doodles get out of hand and turn into full-blown artworks. Particularly when I'm drawing something that already exists, and in this case, these characters already exist in a very specific anime style. I'll want to challenge myself to put a twist on the drawing. So originally, I was going to draw Al and Ed in photorealism, and I had always intended to start going that way once I was coloring, like over the top of the lines. But as I said, this artwork was also an exercise in doing whatever came naturally and felt right in the moment for this artwork. And as you can see, it didn't end up realistic at all, but more of what I've come to know as my style. I know I sound a bit surprised by the term my style, so let me explain. I grew up copying anime and moved on to more of an odd combination of like a Murray Ball, Foot Rock Flats cartoon, which was my other huge drawing influence as a kid, and like a semi-Disney cartoon style. That sort of thing was huge on DeviantArt back in the 2000s amongst teen artists, particularly those of us in the Harry Potter fandom at the time. But I was always working towards photorealism because I always looked at artists who could do that and thought they were the best. Like, the more something looked like a photograph, the more talented the artist was, right? And at the time, in my stubborn teenage brain, I always used to get really shocked whenever I saw an artist I liked with more of a non-realistic or more stylized style post a sketch or study or practice doodle that was super realistic, because I just assumed that they weren't, for lack of a better term, good enough to do realism, or I guess maybe they weren't interested in doing realism. But if they were good enough to do realism, then why the hell would they downgrade themselves to a lower level of art? This just goes to show you how uninformed and knowledgeable I was as a teenager. Like, I got confused why judges in competitions and exhibitions would choose a stylized piece over realism. I just didn't get it. By the time I was 16, I could do pretty decent photorealism in grey lead pencil. I worked crazy hard to get there, and it took hundreds of hours per drawing to get to that level of realism at the time. Probably because I was looking at photographs and drawing exactly what I saw in meticulous detail rather than understanding the form behind that. Nowadays, I could do something similar a lot quicker. And of course, at the time, while I was proud of where I was, I could always see room for improvement. And I think any artist that doesn't see room for improvement, they're never going to improve or grow. But as I said, I was pretty proud of myself at the time. The next step for me was to branch out into color, because I love color. And you can tell that if you see my hair or the clothes I wear or just the way my art is now. But at the time, I couldn't get the kind of realism in color that I could in grayscale. And I think that was totally through lack of knowledge and understanding of color theory, and just a lack of experimentation, which is all, like, that's just a completely other video for another time. So I started sacrificing my level of realism for color. I actually remember my amazingly smart and very left-brain academic father saying at one point that he liked my grayscale work better. Not a put down or anything, just a comment of his personal preference and style likes. He was of the same opinion as me, I guess, that realism meant more talent, and he could obviously see that I was better at one thing than the other. That one thing had more understanding behind it, I guess, even if he didn't know that that's what he was picking up on. And my dad's offhand comment actually stuck in my head for years. In fact, I still occasionally think about it now, over 10 years later. But not in a bad way. It was a challenge. I was going to become just as good at realism in color as I was in grayscale. By the time I'd graduated and was studying illustration at TAFE, my opinion had started to change. I think this is partly just going through growing up and gaining life experiences, but also from being exposed to so many artists and art styles of a high caliber and just totally immersing myself in art both at uni and TAFE and at home as well. I didn't believe realism was at the top of the pyramid of how good an artist was anymore, but I didn't quite understand what made art good or evocative or professional looking either. At the time, I felt my own personal style was stagnant, for lack of a better word. Actually, let me rephrase. I didn't think I had a style at all. I could do photorealism, which anyone can do if they put enough time and effort in. It shows technical and observational skill, but it's not special. I could also mimic most other styles pretty well, but again, I didn't feel connected to any of them like they were mine, you know? More than once, I remember discussing signature style versus versatility in class. We'd go around and around in circles trying to work out which was better to have as a practicing illustrator in the real world. A unique style that people specifically hired you to do, or being completely versatile and essentially a jack of most styles, which meant clients could hire you to complete their vision in the style they envisioned it for. I remember one of the teachers telling me they thought versatility was best, and I actually stuck to that belief for ages. Probably because I still didn't have my own style. I think at that point I just figured some artists had a natural style, that they were lucky enough to get like an extra flair in their creative gene, and some of us just learnt to be good at drawing, but we weren't real artists. That was over 5 years ago, and honestly, it was only until really recently that I still mostly believed that. It's only been the last couple of years that I've really come to understand a few really important things. Firstly, there's a big difference between the type of photorealism where you copy a photo exactly, and realism where an artist is technically skilled enough to create their own vision and have it look realistic. One is rigid and has boundaries and lacks life, and the other is where the artist allows their soul to dance freely through the movements they make with their pencil or brush. And it might make it look slightly less exactly like a photo, but it also has life behind it and it feels more real. I had challenged myself as a teenager to be as good at realism in color as I was in grayscale, and honestly, I don't think I ever actually did that in the way that I meant at the time. Because my realism now is not exactly a copy, exact copy photorealism. I don't have that drive to do that unless I'm working on my technical skills rather than creating something from my soul. I've now come to know something that I was always told by many artists growing up. Learning realism is extremely important because you need to know and understand the form and the rules as they are before you can start bending and breaking them, with an informed knowledge of how things work behind your decisions. That's why those artists with really unique styles that I admired as a kid could absolutely bust out total realism when they wanted to and totally make young me question everything. Secondly, you don't just have to have a signature style or be versatile. You can have your own style and still have the ability to be versatile and work in other styles. Why can't you be both? And coming back around to my own work, I still struggle with a unique style. Honestly, up until the last couple of years, I didn't think I had any kind of style. I still struggle to think that I do now. I get bored really easily if I feel like I'm doing the same thing in art over and over. I flip between all mediums, and those mediums often dictate what style I'm using. Every time I try to do like a series of work in the same theme and style, I get bored after like 4 or 5 pieces, and then I lose interest. And when I look at these artists with lovely, unique styles that I look up to, I often see a theme throughout their work, as well as a similar medium and of course specific signature style of drawing and creating the form. Maybe I just haven't found that one theme and medium that would hook me for life. Maybe I just can't see it for myself. Maybe I already have one. Maybe I'm just not the type of person who can stick to one thing, and I always want to keep trying new stuff. But in the last years, one thing has actually opened my eyes to realizing maybe I do actually have a style, and that's you guys. Amazing people on the internet and in real life commenting on my work. Sometimes people have told me they know my work before they see who actually drew it because of the style. This totally blows my mind, and it gives me hope that there is something in there. I just need to keep nurturing it and give it the opportunity to flourish. So, full circle and back to this artwork. As I mentioned, it was just a doodle between commissions. I was going to color it in total photorealism, as I thought that would be cool and a complete opposite to the anime style. But that gives me this rigid and structured boundaries to follow, and I'm not going to grow as an artist that way. So I decided instead just to go with the flow, experiment, do what comes naturally, and improve on my initial inclinations by pushing a little further than I normally would. I don't want to be afraid of screwing it up, because this is just an exercise. It's not about the finished product, and it's about cultivating this style that I have somewhere deep inside me. I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm still growing as an artist. I feel like I'm in the woods searching for my signature style. I'm still learning about form, colour, composition, and the little decisions that go into making a piece look polished and professional. When I was young, I used to think there was a divide between stylistic work and photorealism, but I now see that photorealism is just a stepping stone on the way to an artist's own style. And that style might be really realistic, but it's not just a flat 2D photorealistic copy. There's no point in recreating something that already exists exactly without adding something of yourself. And that something breathes life into the work, and that's what makes up that artist's style. Other artists may come from a photorealistic stepping stone and then really push the boundaries of what form really looks like, or they may stray outside the spectrum of real-world colour into something more magical. When I was young, I used to think that there were artists who had one amazing style, and then people who could draw lots of different things decently. But I've come to know that every person who draws has style. Some are more subtle than others, some are still finding out what their style is, and some don't even know that they're at the start of this path to individualism as an artist. And some of those people won't notice that there's a path for all the trees. But I hope you guys do in your art practice. Basically, nowadays, I feel there's no verses when it comes to style and realism. They're all styles on a spectrum of understanding, preference, and experience. Thanks for listening to that, guys. I hope it made sense to you at least. I was reading from notes. I just wanted to make sure I didn't forget anything and I was at least somewhat eloquent, because me and words don't mix that well. I'd really like to know what you guys think of this topic. If anyone has any counterpoints or opinions, I'd love to know. I'd love to have a discussion in the comments down below with you. I just thought this was a good topic to discuss, particularly for young artists who are still starting out, and for those of us who really compare ourselves to the artists that we look up to. I'm also going to do a video with this same artwork and recording at a later date, just going into in-depth discussion about what brushes I use in digital programs. I know a lot of you will look at a finished digital artwork, and I do this with artists I love too, and you think, oh, that's, they've used all these special brushes that they've made themselves. But at least with me, that's not the case. I think there's only one brush that I use that's not a brush that comes with the program. So I'm going to do that one at a later date where I'll slow it down and show you exactly what I'm doing to shade this sort of thing and to color it in. But for now, please let me know if you liked this type of video. It's something completely different for me. And it's a bit of a challenge because I'm still at a level where I self-doubt my knowledge in the field. I feel like I'm still really young as an artist and I probably shouldn't be giving my opinion. But at the same time, I know I have life experience in this and maybe it would be useful for some of you. If you liked this kind of video and you want me to do more, please let me know. If there's any other topics in the art world maybe you want me to discuss at a later date in another video, let me know, because it's good for me to know what you guys want to hear. But I guess that's it for this one. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up so I know. And if you want to go check out more of my videos and you like those, I'd love it if you'd like to subscribe. I'd love to have you here. And also don't forget to click that bell because I'm really bad at uploading on a schedule. And no one, including myself, knows when the next video is coming. If you want to see more of my artwork, you can find links down below in the description. I upload on most of my other social medias daily. So if you're looking for lots and lots of content, follow me there. And I guess that's it. It was really fun having a ramble with you guys, and I hope it wasn't too dreadful. Until next time, bye!